I think in the early stages of dating, if somebody starts acting anything different from what they've already established as sort of the baseline, it's okay to call it out. It's not chasing, it's not unhealthy, but you have to do it respectfully. So to say even something like, hey, I've noticed a shift in your energy since Friday, or since I saw you last. Is everything okay? Or, is something going on? And that just leaves it open to her to open up to you and say, actually, you know what? Yeah. Or maybe she's going to double down.
Right. Or is it better to say, did I say anything? Sometimes I'm not great in communicating over.
That would be a great one as well.
Is that a better opening for women?
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Ask Women podcast, your favorite podcast all about dating. I'm one of your hosts, Kristen Carney from KristenandChillDating.com, of course, with the infamous, I've never said infamous for you, but you are pretty infamous, my infamous co-host, Marnie Kinrys from WingGirlMethod.com.
Right.
And today we have a wonderful guest on who's going to help us decode women. And it happens to just be a beautiful woman. So just so you guys know, in case you want to look her up, Kelsey Wonderlin, who's a licensed therapist and dating coach. And she has been featured in the New York Times, Time Magazine. And we are super happy to have you with us, Kelsey. So thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Hello.
Yeah. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do? Because I want guys to hear how you have this information to be able to decode women, other than being a woman yourself, obviously.
Yeah. Yes. So I am a licensed therapist by trade, and I do hold my license, but I currently do full-time dating coaching and have for a couple of years now.
So you hold it loosely. So
that right.
Get you in trouble. Right.
Right. Yeah. So, I've worked with thousands of women in, dating and getting into healthy relationships, seen a lot of different patterns, and have the psychology background to kind of decode a lot of that in a way that I think is different than some other dating coaches.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So let's dive into decoding, because you've worked with thousands of women in the dating space. I'm going to ask you, what are you seeing as being the biggest difficulty with the majority of these women? Is there one thing? Are there three things? Are there five things? Is it like no?
Yeah.
There's 1,000 billion trillion things.
Yes.
I think we could be here all day. Well, I think there's a few things. Their main complaint is that they aren't finding emotionally available men who actually want a relationship. Mm-hmm. So what I'm seeing is, they'll meet a guy who says, yes, I want a relationship. And then 3 weeks, maybe 3 months later, he's like, you know what? I realized that I'm not ready. That's a really common pattern. I'm sure you guys have insights on. Kristen's raising her hand.
Yeah. Teacher, can I ask a question? Is that really code for I'm not that into you?
It could be. I think it absolutely could be. I think people are really terrible at directly communicating across genders. People haven't been given the skills to just say, hey, listen, like, I wish you the best, but I'm just not feeling it. So they'll come up with all of these excuses. But what I also think is happening there too is, there's a very big difference between wanting a relationship and being ready for a relationship. And most people are not aware of that difference across genders, in my opinion, as well. So what that can look like is, humans desire connection. So they feel this desire, they're lonely, they wish they had someone to go to the gym with or hang out with. And as a result, they conclude, I'm ready for a relationship and that's what I want, which is a natural conclusion to make. But it's an entirely different thing to start attaching to someone new, feeling scared, feeling triggered, not knowing what to do with that, and or prioritizing someone else in your life. Like in the moments where relationships aren't so easy and aren't so fun, and you're having to think about a second person, a lot of the times when that moment comes, people aren't truly ready to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's help the guys who are listening, because I think because a lot of men, especially the men that I work with, and I know the men that Kristen works with as well, they don't state their needs, especially in the beginning of a relationship, which is when you should be stating them, right? So I'd like to guide them a little bit so that they don't jump from, I'm like totally wanting a relationship, to, I really just don't want one with you because you're pouncing on me, because you need too much from me, you're demanding too much of my time. Because I believe that 75% of the time, that is what's happening with these situations. They're just like, this is not what I thought a relationship was.
Right.
So how can men be kind, be respectful, not push women away, but still state their boundaries and state their wants in a relationship and not feel that they have to follow suit to whatever she's putting out there.
Yeah. And women definitely don't want you to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Just talked to one of my clients this morning who said, I didn't like this guy's response on the dating app. And I said, I thought it was great. She said, yeah, but you didn't see what I said before. And I feel like he just said what I said back to me.
Yeah.
Right. So women, they
appease
do,
her.
right. They want you to have your own opinions. They want to hear them. They want to.
I know. Kristen, are you okay? Is that Walmart shirt like making you crazy?
It's itching so much.
Itching
it's
you
just
that you're
like
like
we are
having a
made out of
spasm right now?
synthetic poison. Yeah. No, I mean, the guys that I work with, like I drill home constantly opinions. Of course, there's a way to present them in a way that's endearing and charismatic. So it's not just a know-it-all. I know everything. This is good. This is bad. But today, I actually, with one of my clients, we were practicing bantering back and forth. And we were using, I was acting as this girl from a dating profile, and she was very into horror films. And so in the conversation, I always advise like trying to stay away from questions and giving information to get information instead. But as the girl, I'm not quote unquote taught how to banter. So of course I do things wrong as the role play. But I said to him, are you a huge horror buff fan or something like that? She loved horror films. And I paused because I could see him pause. And I was like, now, do you really like horror films, or are you trying to connect with her? And it's like, oh, right. Like, actually, I might not like them as much as I'm going to let on right now.
Yeah.
And it's cool. You could say like, I like them, but not enough that I scare myself about how much I like them. Something like that. So it's like,
or they
you
freak
can
me out. You're gonna have to hold my hand the entire way through.
Or I'm freaked out by how much you like them, and you could be choosing
exactly.
about
That's
that.
funny. I'm freaked out by how much that. I love that because opinions are wonderful, and exactly the way that Kristen just shared that one. It's not insulting. It's not saying I don't like you because you like something I don't like. So what would be the way that you would advise, like based on what you've heard from all these women and based even from the feedback that Kristen just gave, because this is all guys who are listening to the show, what would be the way to say, I only want to get together once a week in the very beginning, or I don't like that much communication, or I don't need that. Because I will say, just like a little caveat here, my husband, I wish he had done this in the beginning with me. He didn't tell me how much he didn't want me around in the beginning. And I pounced on him. I was all over him. And then it led to all of these difficulties for us. But he liked me enough that he didn't want to hurt my feelings.
Well, he also couldn't see you because he's 6'10", and
He's
you're 4'11". Yeah.
Exactly. But
amazing.
But it hurt our relationship, even till today, where I still have, some little scabs from it, to be honest. So I would love to hear your opinion on what females are looking for in that situation.
Yeah. Well, and I think you have to really think about like, what is the person that you're looking for? And what I mean is, right, like the person who's going to be right for you is going to understand that kind of communication. So say what it is that you want and need, and allow people to tell you if that works for them, and allow them to eliminate themselves. So you don't have to be very creative with it. You can literally say, as long as it's respectful, like, listen, I'm not a big texter in the early stages of dating. If we were to get into a relationship, that's something different. And I'm happy to, once we've got more of that bond, like I'm going to want to talk to you more. Right. But I value building connection in person, and I can't wait to see you next weekend. That's what I would say. Something like that, right? Very positive.
That has that positive instead of just the beginning part. I don't like texting a lot.
Right.
In the beginning. Right.
Or they say, I'm a bad texter, and my clients are like, is this a red flag? And I'm like, okay, let's calm down. But
there's a lot of interpretation where you're like, does this mean he doesn't like me? Does this mean he's seeing other girls?
Right. Does this mean he's not going to put in effort? So I think the number one thing to think about is be clear and express intentionality and interest with your needs.
Yeah.
And then it shouldn't be a problem. And if it is, then that is not your person.
Yeah. The recipe, this is who I am. But this is how I work.
So if someone is
this is how
subtle,
I feel about you. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
If someone is subtle in their communication in terms of, I don't like to text, and you're on the other end and you want confirmation, but you don't want to appear as if you're interrogating them or seeming too needy, how do you get the further information that will help ease your mind? Not that you should let your mind go out of control because of it.
So that's an interesting insight to women as well, because we're trying to decode women on this episode, right? So that is what we're seeking. We're seeking validation and confirmation that you're into us,
right?
Especially when we're interested in you, when we're at that stage where we're vying for your attention. You're past the beginning few dates. So exactly kind of what Kelsey just said. It is that recipe of stating what it is that you want, but also stating where you are and what you think.
Right.
I really enjoy spending time with you, but I have to tell you, I'm not a huge texter. I really value face-to-face connection.
Yeah.
Right. So, but let's say the guy doesn't say that to the girl. When she wants more clarification, she doesn't want to say, something like,
I know, but so
are you just saying that?
But what is she going to do instead? So remember, guys are listening to the show, so not trying to get advice for yourself, Kristen. But,
I don't need advice.
But tell guys
I totally need advice in that sense.
What would be helpful for you and where you're at, because you're like, you didn't give me anything and I don't have my answer yet. So what will they be seeing from women when women don't have what they're looking for?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but what would it look like from a woman slyly trying to get that information?
Marnie just stole my question.
Yeah.
Well, I think I just said it better than you.
Like how? Yeah. Like how will they know? Well, I think everybody's different. I think it's kind of really like what do you go to when you're unsure of yourself? Some women will they'll start playing hot and cold with you. They'll act like they don't care. Some women will become more clingy and needy and say like, well, are you into me or not? And kind of, it might be a turnoff for you to hear that. But I think what you want to look for is, did I communicate in my boundary something positive to give her that reassurance? And if I didn't, then it is probably on me. But she should actually say it to you in a more emotionally mature way. That might be like, hey, I totally hear you. Just wanted to get some clarity on where you stand. Are you still interested in going on dates and spending time together? That would be a great way for...
In a perfect world,
right.
that would happen.
That would be out of a script.
Of the time.
Correct.
Exactly.
You're going to get that. You're going to get like ignored. You're going to get maybe passive aggressive short messages after that, or whatever somebody's defense mechanism is when they feel rejected.
Delayed
so
responses,
it'll be good.
Or saying I'm doing something else with other people, or slyly saying that they're going out with other guys. Yeah, they'll get those depending on what age people are at. Yes, they'll get those
exactly. And you don't deserve that, even if you didn't give the greatest way of saying it. So I think it's really information for you. And the whole theme of this episode, I think for me, is instead of trying to decode every little thing that she's saying or not saying, try to communicate and carry yourself with emotional maturity and the way that you want, aligned with your values, and then allow people again to eliminate themselves rather than being so focused on, what does she think of me? What do I think of her? And it's everything in the early stages of dating is information for you about whether this person is compatible, can meet your needs, is healthy. It's not information about whether you're good enough for them.
So that leads me to a really good, interesting question, because that was a very good point to make. How many chances do you give to people? Because you were even just saying, like, if she was really emotionally mature, she would respond like this. Most people do not. We're all human. We all screw up. We're all trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So I love that you're looking for, okay, I'm going to be emotionally mature and give this answer, and then look to her. And if she responds a little bit like, a little crazy or a little bit immaturely.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to advise the guys on how many times do you let her respond that way before it's like, no, that she can't catch up. Like, so is it that you say something, maybe it's a little bit too vague for her. She starts acting a certain way. You then are like, you know what? I didn't give her what she needs for security. You give it to her. And then she's still a little bit evasive or whatever her behavior is. Is that when you decide, not on par with me? Okay.
Yeah,
so
and I
give
think
that one chance. Like, she's allowed to screw up.
Yeah, of course. But I think it depends how many dates you've been on, how well you know someone, right? I think in the early stages of dating, if somebody starts acting anything different from what they've already established as sort of the baseline, it's okay to call it out. It's not chasing, it's not unhealthy, but you have to do it respectfully. So to say even something like, hey, I've noticed a shift in your energy since Friday, or since I saw you last, is everything okay? Or, is something going on? And that just leaves it open to her to open up to you and say, actually, you know what? Yeah. Or maybe she's going to double down.
Right. Or is it better to say, Did I say anything? Sometimes I'm not great in communicating over
That would be a
text.
great one
Is
as
that
well.
is that a better opening for women
Yeah.
to be able to
I think,
say?
yeah, I think that that would go over well with someone who's reasonable, right? And again, so then it comes back to if you give her that opportunity and she is still doubling down, that there's your information. Because when you approach someone effectively and they can't give you an effective response
Well, and you're
multiple
taking
times,
ownership too, right? You're saying, okay, this is on me. Like
right,
maybe it's
right,
something that I did.
yeah,
And
totally agree.
can I ask you, because I'm sure many men are thinking this, would that make them look weak if they were already saying, "Oh, it's my fault" to women? Or
Oh,
will good women appreciate that?
yeah, I think the right women will appreciate that for sure. And it's, like the right woman is also not the woman who's going to walk all over you or disrespect you in that regard. So I think the wrong people certainly will see that as an opportunity to walk all over you. And so when you notice that she's leaning into that, then that's again your information of like, oh, I'm feeling walked all over and this is not
And you
fair and
suck.
I don't like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to
Absolutely.
walk away. Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay,
That's what
wonderful.
I'd say.
All right, so I want to get into other decode. I like that. I think this is a great start to an episode because I think it gave us tons of little bits of information
Hmm.
about women, but more importantly for the men as well, on like how they can continue to put themselves in the selector's seat and remind
Yeah.
themselves that they're not the ones who are supposed to be pleasing and appeasing. That's
Hmm.
always what I want to remind these guys of. So I
Hmm.
also wanted to code some other female behaviors, like so
Hmm.
why does she reply on text but she won't go out with me? Like
Yeah. That's
why will like why the
hmm.
women that you work with, why will they continue to engage with men
Yeah.
they have no plans of ever going out with? Or are they waiting for something?
No, I really think that from what I've seen, it's again, I think most people lack communication skills. This is one of my big like things is from being a therapist is we were not given these skills in general, people in all contexts. So what
Yeah.
I see is that women don't know how to say no. They don't know how to actually just be assertive. And so they just kind of give you like one word answers or they take 15 days to answer you, 5 days, whatever. And it's they're hoping that you're going to get the hint and leave them alone. And so
Is that
really
what that's what they're trying to signal to
I,
you is
I mean,
stop
that's,
contacting me because I'm going to be
yeah,
polite and respond.
right.
Okay, that's what they're
I think they
signaling.
really don't know how to say, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
You'd like
So
to end
that's where
communication. Yeah.
they don't know how to say that because it sounds really harsh and they think, well, he didn't do anything. So if he wants to message, I'll just keep answering him. But it's really on you as the guy to not waste your time pursuing a lead that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
What if she replies quickly, but with really short, cold-ish answers? But it's always
Mm-hmm.
quick.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's like if she's not going to go out with you and she's messaging you and she's being short, like she probably wants you to get lost, but
So
she's right
that
by your phone and she
so
doesn't.
yeah. So
Yeah.
guys I know misread that because they think, well, she wrote back quickly,
Yeah.
but it's more of the content.
Quality over,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Right. It's like if it's
Mm-hmm.
not feeling how you want to feel, you're kind of chasing something that isn't even up to your standards.
Yeah. She's not giving you anything. She's literally like
Mm-hmm.
straight facing you
Yeah.
just to be
Right.
polite.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
so another question that sort of is like in line with this is
Mm-hmm.
how long do women want to be chatting online or over text
Mm-hmm.
before they go out? And what is the acceptable amount of time? Because I have
Yeah.
guys who have said, I've been talking to this woman for 4 months and she still doesn't want to go.
Oh my God.
And
Well,
I'm
that's
like, 4 months?
unreasonable.
That's a stop. Get off.
Right.
Stop it. But like,
Yeah,
so
that's
what
unreasonable.
are most women that you're working
Mm-hmm.
with like? What is their trigger point to say, oh, I could go out with him now? Right? Like how
Yeah.
long do they think? And I know it's going to be a different answer for every woman,
Yeah.
but like what? Give me some examples of like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll talk to a person for like a day and then I'll decide, or I'll talk to them for a week, or I'll talk to them for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What
I'd
are you
say
seeing?
the average is 1 to 2 weeks. Now, what I'm teaching my women to do though is to ask what I call a weed out question.
Mm-hmm.
Is which is a question based on their values that it's a question they want to know the answer to before they go through the effort to meet you, right? So they
Yeah.
can rule you in or out. So, what I tell them is once you feel you've gotten the information you need, then go ahead and initiate, even if you're the one to say, okay, let's meet, because I know a lot of guys are holding back with that because they don't want to scare women off with trying to meet too quickly. So, but what I would say is like probably most women are not asking you great questions. You're talking about like what you did this weekend or the weather. And so there isn't really a trigger point for them to say and feel and lean into, I want to meet this guy. Now I've gotten what I need to know, because they're not really asking great
It's
questions.
fluff. A lot of it is fluff. So
Mhm.
actually, let's help the guys out again.
Yeah.
What is it that the guys could be offering up
Yes.
that could give them the information? Is it
Yeah.
them saying, okay, you've got 3 questions, ask them. I know
Ask.
you want to know stuff about me.
Well, and for the guy to initiate a weed out style question, I mean, women would be blown away. I'm telling you, they're blown away when men answer these questions with any kind of thought,
Yes.
because they're so tired of being ghosted or being asked, hey, how are you?
Yes.
So for a man to actually initiate would be huge. I coach men and women. Actually, I do mostly women. So I used to coach this guy who actually came up with this one, and it is now like my go-to because it is so good. He used to ask women, what's something you've learned in recent years that's really important to you now in relationships?
Interesting.
Women were losing their shit. This man was getting dates left and right because they're like, wow, I've never been asked such an emotionally deep question, right? Yeah. Incredible. You got to have your answer ready to go too. But if you can even start a conversation like that, I think the right women are going to see, and that's going to signal to them, this is somebody you should not sleep on.
Yeah. And so, what age group is it that likes those questions? Or is there like an age group
I would
that
say
prefers that?
I haven't seen any. I mean, I see women like mid 20s to 70, and I haven't had any women say, I don't like that. Okay. They're like, that's phenomenal. That's great. I'd love to get the information I need, or to have deeper conversations before we go out.
Okay. And so what are some other, I think you're on mute, Kristen. I was gonna say, but so what are some other weed out questions that guys could throw their way?
Yeah, I mean, it can even be something like, it has to be genuine to you and what you believe in, but anything that is kind of actually truly a deal breaker for you would be good. So maybe it's like family is really important to you. So maybe you're going to say, lead with, family is really important to me. Maybe it's my nieces and nephews live down the street, see them all the time or whatever. Is family a big part of your life? Or is that an important part of your life? Same thing when it comes to faith, or even in regards to more controversial stuff. Like, you want to know, in my opinion, sooner than later, to say, listen, I'm curious, would you say your personal values lean more traditional or more progressive? What are your ideas about like gender roles in a relationship? Women want, especially successful women, which is my kind of market, they want to be asked these questions. They want to see that somebody gets their value system when it comes to those things.
What about unsuccessful women? What do they like? I guess you don't know.
I can answer that. just kidding.
Well,
I'm very successful. I'm very successful.
No, but that's interesting. You said successful women, so that's more alpha style women. So I wonder what I don't know. If you have the response for that, because you don't seem like that either. But are they different?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what they'd want to hear or not hear in terms of questions or answers. I mean, what I can say is that the women I work with who are really ambitious and successful, they do want someone who's going to be supportive of their career. What they hear a lot is, oh my gosh, that's great. But then when it actually comes down to it and she gets a promotion or she gets an advancement, there becomes a competitive culture, or there's like an insecurity, which is totally fair. Like, we've really socialized men to not be comfortable with women as leaders of anything. So you can have that insecurity, but it's yours to work through. And women want a man who's going to be willing to do that work, is like overwhelmingly the number one thing that I see.
Yeah. I actually have to get off, but I want you guys to continue this conversation if you're okay with that.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay, now that the witch is gone, it's just me and you, Kelsey, so we can actually have a good time. So we're going to talk about shy women and decoding shy women and their behavior, which I know can be so confusing for guys. So obviously, with you working with women that are generally successful, are there still shy, successful women?
Yeah, for sure. And what I would say is, like, honestly, even my my clients who are very successful, ambitious, they're extremely independent. They don't want to be independent in a relationship. They want to be interdependent, and they want to be taken care of. They want to be like, soft is a word that I hear a lot, safe, supported. So even though they are, successful women making moves, they actually want the man to make moves, and they actually have pretty traditional desires when it comes to early dating. They do want to be taken out. They want to be asked out. They don't want to have to initiate very much. When it comes to a relationship, they want to be more equal. But in the beginning, they want the guy to take the lead.
How does a guy tell if a woman is shy versus not interested?
I would say that not interested, you're going to get more of that, those short answers, or taking a really long time to respond. And when she responds, it doesn't really give you very much. Versus if a woman is shy, you'll probably hear more flirtation or interest from her over text than you will in person. And you'll feel that sense of like, this conversation feels reciprocal. Like, I'm not pulling teeth. I'm not, having to ask all the questions. I would say that you would just see some interest coming back at you, even if she's shy. But if she's not interested and she wants you to know it, I think you'll really feel that. It won't feel very good. It will feel kind of icky.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're having that decent back and forth on the phone and she feels less inhibited, but then you get in person and it's like a different person, how do you tell it's her shyness and her not just showing up and seeing you and going, ew, gross, not what I expected?
Well, I think you'll know based on whether she will see you again and how she communicates with you afterwards. I think in the moment, it's a little hard to tell, to be honest, on that date. But afterwards, right, if she's like evading you, that's not a great sign. If she's engaging with you, but more so over text or the phone than in person, I would presume that she's shy in person.
What do shy women, what do they like? What do they need to warm up, especially in the, I mean, we can talk about in the personality department, but also in the sexual department.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I think that they need, in general, to feel pretty safe. So they need to see that you're not going to judge them. They need to have a sense that you've developed a bond and you're not going to just leave them, which takes some time, right? But you can certainly help that process along by providing words of affirmation from the beginning, not over the top. You don't need to be like going all in. They don't actually want that. They
No.
want your genuine interest over time, and they want it to build over time. So as that bond builds, they want to hear more of like, wow, I'm so excited about you, or like, my feelings are really strong for you, or I can see a future with us, or whatever. As long as it's genuine, they want to feel safe that you're right there with them, and then they can start to open up. When it comes to sexually, I think they need even more of that, and they need a lot of assurance that you're not going to judge them or expect them to be performative, or you're not going to leave them afterwards.
Are they generally slower to engage sexually than non-shy women?
They can be. I think so.
I feel like so many guys would have the kink of like a shy girl who's wild in the
Right.
bedroom.
Right. Well, the problem with people who are shy in general, right, because I know men can be this way too, is that, again, they don't have the communication skills to be assertive. So sometimes it does happen that they just don't know how to say no, and they do end up sleeping with people sooner than they wanted to, especially after they've had a couple of drinks or whatever. So I do hear that, and they do have regrets about that. So, I mean, that's not really yours to own. A woman needs to say no if she wants to say no, and that's hers to work on. But certainly you should absolutely be asking for consent. I mean, I'm a big believer in that, and I think that women
Like even
mostly
before a
respect
kiss?
it. Women have different opinions about that, for sure.
Yeah.
Some women feel like you're going to ruin the mood. But I mean, I think in general, what I find is a sweet spot is women who don't want to be asked, they still like to hear, wow, I'd really like to kiss you right now. Like, that's a nice in between. That's a bit consensual, but doesn't make them feel awkward.
Yeah, that's always the go-to line that I suggest as well, because it could be a shocker and it might not be,
Right.
but that one,
Right.
that line doesn't make it feel that you're emasculating yourself by saying, can
Mhm.
I kiss you? And
Right.
not that emasculates you, but it,
Mhm.
the power dynamic kind of stays balanced
Right.
when you're stating what you want, but it's also
Mhm.
getting consent.
Right, because you might be reading it differently. I mean, I think I know that that happens. I
Yeah.
know women have told me too, like, oh, he went in for the kiss and I didn't know how to say no. And so we just did, but I hated it. And I'm like,
Uh,
oh, I hate that for you. I wish he had said something.
yeah. No, I mean, that's happened to me. I do
Hmm.
stand up, and I do a
Oh,
bit
nice.
occasionally about, it's so much easier to just go with it than to just get out the word no. Like,
Right.
I'm surprised
Hmm.
I don't have an 18-year-old child, because an 18-year-old child, raising that is easier to me than saying no in so
Right.
many
Yeah.
circumstances, you
Yeah.
know.
I know it. And women, I mean, people have different feelings about this, I guess, but I think it's true that women have, generally speaking, been socialized to really protect male feelings for the most part. I know there's some women who can be like really mean and cold and whatever, but in those situations, especially to kind of protect men's masculinity and ego sometimes. So that's why they do sometimes have a hard time, is whether they like you or not, they don't want to make you feel bad about yourself. They don't want to embarrass you. But so it's a really great if you can make some kind of verbal conversation happen before you're trying to make a move physically.
Right. Yeah. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's so much of where the confusion can come, because the guy's like, well,
Yeah.
she kissed me back, but now she's not really
Mm-hmm.
texting me. I don't really get it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, she was
Right.
just kind of doing what she had to do
Yeah. And you know
in
what
the
I will
moment.
tell you is that even if she kisses you back and she seems very into it, even asking one time if things are progressing further, hey, I just want to stop and pause and make sure you feel comfortable right now. Like, is there anything that I can do to make you more comfortable? Or like, are you good with where things are going right now? Do you have any boundaries you want me to know about? Any of those kind of questions is like, it's like I'm trying to think of something. It's like, and it's like an immediate turn on for most women, because that is what they want to feel is safety, and that's going to make them feel safe.
Yeah, we've stressed on the show, I think, so many times, maybe ad nauseum, about making
Hmm.
women feel safe. Like,
Hmm.
safety, I mean, it doesn't always equal sexual, but you will
Right.
not get sexual without safety.
Correct.
Never,
Hmm.
ever. Even
Yep.
if it's like a one night stand, you still have to have a relative feeling of safety.
Oh yeah, for sure. And women just, I mean, that it's going to make her like you more, unless and if it doesn't, she's not the woman for you, because that would be bizarre.
Right, right. And so creating that safety looks like stuff that you just
Hmm.
said just now. Are there any other ways to
Hmm.
show safety?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, right, even outside of sex, like initiating those conversations, kind of like we talked about with the weed out questions, not only does it demonstrate your level of emotional intelligence, frankly, that she's looking for, but it makes her feel safe to be asked, like, what are some boundaries that you might have that, I want to be aware of? Or, can we agree, like even opening lines of communication to say, can we agree that, we can let each other know anything directly if one of us, feels uncomfortable, or if feelings change, right? Like and just to even say, I want us to have open lines of communication. That is like, for most women, that's like, take my clothes off now, right?
Yeah,
Like that is
yeah,
like, they
yeah,
want you to communicate. They want you to initiate those kinds of high level conversations that demonstrate that you can do that in a partnership.
yeah. There used to be, back in the day, a sketch on SNL where
Mm-hmm.
it was, the guy was, well, the comedian, I should know his name, Kevin. Oh God, anyone listening that knows this is like Kevin Blank. Um,
Kevin Hart.
no, this is like, it's
Oh, okay.
older.
Oh, okay, okay.
Kevin. Oh God. But anyway, he was Subliminal Message Man, and so, different era, but he would say
Mm-hmm.
things like, "This pizza's really delicious, sex." And I was just the other day, so trying to, like,
Yeah.
but when it comes to creating safety, I've thought about that subliminal message safety. And so some stuff
Mm.
that I teach guys that I work with, or something that I teach guys that I work with regarding creating safety, is being the subliminal message guy, but not saying the word sex. It's communicating subtly that you can save her, hypothetically. So like, for example, if she's watching her nephews and they're crazy and wild and they're texting, and he just puts out there, if you need like a nephew ninja, I'm your guy. Obviously he's not serious, he's not going to really be there to be a ninja to children, but it puts out that vibe of like, I can save you, but I'm not being literal.
I got you, and also I'm willing to be involved with children.
Yeah.
Which women love, who want children. But most women, right? It's like, they're like, oh, cool. You're not like, it's sort of, I think that's also a subliminal signal of like, I'm not going to be the dad who's just like, you know, okay, you're with the kids, enjoy that by yourself, do that alone. Like, I'm going to help you pick up the burden of, you know, watching multiple children. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. All right. This guy's a team player.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
So quick question about teasing, because so I work with guys and I teach them how to tease. I teach them how to banter. I teach them how to tease safely, quote unquote, so we don't have to really worry about offending. But do you hear much from your female clients about the desire to be teased, or do they say guys sometimes go overboard, or they don't? Guys are going overboard.
Yeah. I think that for the most part, the women that I coach they're very over that. They're very interested in someone who can have more of these like deep conversations, and they can have banter. But I don't hear much of that at all as a desire. It's like they want that to unfold more naturally. They certainly don't want to be hearing any kind of that sexual teasing like on dating apps or early.
But and maybe not even sexual teasing. So like,
say more.
Say for example, let's say a girl accidentally spells, she's a cosmetologist, but accidentally writes cosmologist. Does she want the guy to call her out? I teach the guys that you should call her out in a playful way and say like something like, wow, that's why everyone at NASA has been looking so fly lately, or something like that.
Okay,
so
I see what you're saying. I would call that banter. Sorry. Yeah. So I think we're talking about the same thing there. Yeah. No, they definitely, I mean, I think for the most part, they do want that. What's funny is last night in one of my group coaching calls, somebody asked this question where, you know, I give them a list of weed out questions. And so she said, you know, is it a red flag if a guy is like maybe making fun of your weed out question? And she gave the example of she accidentally copied the number 20 from my list and put it with her message.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I thought the guy said something funny. He was like, I'd love, by the way, you know, something like, I'd love to see that entire Excel spreadsheet where that question came from.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, like shoot, like fire away all the questions at me. And I thought that was great. She actually thought that she was worried it could be a red flag and she felt like he was making fun of her. But I think that was being a bit sensitive. I thought that was a great response.
Yeah. Well, if you can tell the women that you work with, since I'm with the dudes and you're with a lot of the girls, that guys, their intention is never to, for the most part, they're nice or kind.
Right.
They're not trying to make anyone feel bad. What they're trying to do is build tension and chemistry, and they just might not hit it quite right all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So I think women personally should give guys a little grace, because there's so much pressure on them to it's like planning the date, getting, do I kiss? Do I text after? I know. And women, of course, like have to go through that too, but to the degree that the guys do, and it's not
right. They are basically telling me they want to be able to sit back and have him do everything in the beginning. And I'm trying in there. I'm like, listen, could we adjust that? Like, that's not quite fair. And it's just what we've been socialized, right? But it's not even in line with what they're telling me that they want in a relationship, which is more of an equal partnership. So I'm doing my best to like instill that. But yeah, there's so much pressure on guys of when to ask out and what to text and where to pick the date, and, you know, just so much to do everything.
Yeah. Because I talk to them every day. I'm like, I can't not feel a little bit bad.
Oh yeah, of
It's
course.
it's hard, but
I feel bad for them too.
yeah, but women were, human as well, obviously, but better. Just
Yeah.
kidding. No, but it's hard on both ends, but especially for the guys in dating.
Mhm.
So okay, so I guess we'll wrap up with some online dating stuff. Guys struggle so much with that. What are
Mm.
women looking for in a guy's dating profile?
Mm. Well, the women that I work with, they're looking for some depth. They're looking
Yeah,
for something that stands out to them. And I think this is true of most people, to be honest, is like you definitely are really tired of seeing people talk about like that they love their dog and they love long walks and
travel.
tacos, travel. Oh my God. It's like, which I get it. But you can ask that question when you match. If that's a deal breaker, listen, I travel half of the year. Are you in or not? Okay, fine. But generally speaking, what they want to see is something that aligns with their values that calls them in. And so the way that you actually do that is just by simply building a profile that aligns with your values as a man. Things that, what do you stand for or against? What are you passionate about? What's something you could talk about all day that isn't like crypto? Like something that, whether it's your family or it's like your progressive values or your traditional values or who you, maybe not who you voted for, but like, political, religious, spiritual, like they want to see that articulated and not just put the tag that you're spiritual, but describe that a little bit. Like, is it that the world would be a better place if people uh, asked for more information or were curious for more information before making judgments? That's a great articulation of kind of the way you view the world or the way that you are, that gives women such great information to get excited about you and to say, oh, I think that way too, or I agree, or he seems really kind-hearted, instead of just saying like I'm really kind and generous or something. You know what I mean?
1,000,000,000%. My ex-boyfriend, I already knew he was really funny, but he said to me, because I think, conversation and banter should be dynamic, not just all
Mm-hmm.
silly, not just all serious, but
Yeah.
he said to me, maybe, I don't know, enough lines in where, and he was a comedian, so I knew he was funny, whatever. But he said to me, do you think the universe is hostile or friendly? And I kind of give that away to guys as like
Mm-hmm.
a gift of like, if you don't know how to go deeper, here's a question to ask
Mm-hmm.
and do some research on it, because maybe you might not know what to say and learn. And I think like Einstein
Yeah.
talks about it or something.
Yeah.
But that's such a good way to go deeper, to get this
Mm-hmm.
other side of her, to see another side of you, and then you can pop right out of it. So it's like
Right.
if Einstein said it and you're done, if you don't have anything more to add to it, you could just
Right.
be like, that's all I have in common with Einstein except my hairstyle in the morning, So
That's
and just like
cute.
pop
Mm-hmm.
somewhere cute and
Right.
playful again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Totally.
the depth thing, like I
Right.
try so hard to communicate that as well. I get so passionate about it. And
Mm-hmm.
my ex-boyfriend, who I mentioned, we both said that if anyone has tacos in their profile, we X them out. Like that's a filter. You see
Oh
tacos or
my
Taco
God.
Tuesday, X,
Yeah, I
goodbye.
love
Like,
it. Right.
mhm.
It's like, yeah, people in general, they're looking to see something on a dating app that makes them go, wow, that really
I've
could
never
be
heard
my
that.
person. Right. I've
Yeah.
never heard that, or that this person's in my head. Right. And so again, it's not about like psychoanalyzing women and Googling what do women want to see on dating profiles. It's about, once you get extremely clear about who you are, what you stand for, what you stand against, what's really important to you, like what can you never tolerate in a relationship again? Can you never deal with again? Someone differing with you on faith or politics or some kind of view that you have or whatever. People need to see that to feel called and drawn to it. And the whole point is to repel the wrong people away in order to attract the right ones. So I think stop trying to appease everyone in your profile, speak to who you really are, and your dream partner is going to see that and be like, whoa, that speaks to me.
Yeah. And you're basically saying, say it in a way that is has some character behind it rather than
Mm-hmm.
this list of
Yeah.
qualifiers.
Right.
Because it's like we can get
Right.
specific, but in that way, it's such a turnoff. It's like,
Right.
you must qualify for me,
Right.
And I know women do that too.
Oh, yeah. No, you definitely don't want to put anything like that in your profile. I mean, you can say, I'm looking for, a like-minded partner who wants to travel. Well, don't say travel the world, but people say that, right?
Right.
But you certainly don't want to be like, you must be at least this
And I
size,
can't
height.
believe so
It's
many people do
so,
that.
it's such a red flag. Oh my gosh. It's such
Huge
a red
red
flag.
flag. Yes.
Yeah, your profile is a place for you to tell people about who you are so that they can weed themselves in and out. Then your
Exactly.
weed out question is your second layer, your second defense of weeding people out further. So your profile should be weeding people in and out based on who you are, not on who you need them to be.
Not your demands.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a super fun show. I'm so glad Marnie left. And so Kelsey, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah. So I'm over on Instagram at Kelsey Wonderlin for the most part.
And it's Wonderlin.
That's
Love
right.
that last name.
It is not Wonderland. I know.
Yeah.
You know what? My husband actually took my last name because it's superior.
For real?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well,
yeah.
He should take it and you should keep it, but then just change the last 3 letters to FUL. So it's just wonderful.
I know. Well, we really actually thought about combining our last names, and it would have been Wonderfield, which would have actually been pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we didn't end up doing it. It turns out there's a lot that goes into legally changing both of your names because the government is like, are you trying to evade something? Right. So we were like, okay, we're just going to avoid that headache.
Yeah. Next thing you know, you're in prison.
Right.
Yeah. We just wanted to be called Wonderland.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was so fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. And for everyone listening, make sure you tell your friends about our show. Go check Kelsey out. You can check me out at KristenandShieldDating.com. And of course, Marnie at WingGirlMethod.com. And new episodes come out every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific. So make sure you subscribe so you don't have to go and download them individually. And I hope you guys are having a great new year, and we'll see you next week.